So for today's session, we are privileged to have an interaction with Sir Jairam Ramesh, who is an Indian economist and a politician. He's a member of parliament representing Karnataka state in the Rajya Sabha. He has been a part of the Union Council of Ministers of India and has taken charge of different ministries like the Ministry of Rural Development and the Ministry of Drinking Water and Sanitation. He has also been the Indian Minister of State at the Ministry of Environment and Forests. He has served as an advisor at the Planning Commission and as the Deputy Chairman, State Planning Board, Government of Karnataka, and on the Economic Advisory Council of Andhra Pradesh. He has also served on the Eminent Persons Group of the Union Ministry of Power and other key government committees. Currently, he serves as a member of the International Advisory Board that provides strategic policy advice to a key UN agency on environmentally sound technologies for developing nations. He's a columnist with the Business Standard, Business Today, The Telegraph, Times of India, and India Today, sometimes under the pen name Kautilya. And he has authored several renowned books. Today, we are honored to have an interaction with Sir Jairam Ramesh. Sir, as everyone is aware of the present situation of the Indian economy, it is going through a period of sluggish growth and there's an evident slowdown in some key sectors of the economy. While the incumbent government has come up with certain measures to alleviate the situation, in your opinion, what is the right approach to revive the economy?
Well, I think the broad direction of economic policy was set in 1991. And since then, there have been 5, 6 prime ministers, different governments, but the broad direction has remained the same. Sometimes we have moved fast on that path, sometimes we have moved slow, but there's been no dramatic reversal, there's been no dramatic U-turn. So I think the way ahead is very clear. The basics of economic growth come from investment, so you have to increase investment in the economy, public investment, private investment. It comes from consumption, private consumption, so you have to stimulate demand both in urban India and rural India. And growth also comes from harnessing world markets, which means you have to increase exports. So there is no rocket science, there is no Nobel Prize winning thing for what needs to be done for economic growth. You have to promote investment, you have to promote demand, which will lead to consumption, and you have to promote exports. So this is broadly the direction in which we have moved in the last 25, 26, 30 years.
Sir, can you share your experience as a parliamentarian?
Well, I've been in Parliament now for 15 years, and being in government and being a member of Parliament is one thing. Being a member of Parliament and being in the opposition is something else. Because when you're in government, you're either making policy or you're defending government policy. When you're in the opposition, you're not making policy. But you are opposing, because the job of the opposition party is to oppose. It is oppose, expose, and ultimately depose. The government in power. So I've had a good experience. It's a great learning experience. The Parliament is not only about speaking. Parliament is also about listening. Indians love to talk, but they don't love to listen. We have a great capacity for talking, but a very little capacity for listening, for hearing. But in Parliament, you have to listen, you have to sit, you have to hear, you have to respond. So Parliament is a microcosm of Indian society. Different people, different backgrounds, different, from social backgrounds, different economic backgrounds, different political backgrounds, different cultural, religious, linguistic backgrounds. So it represents India and its diversity. So it's been a very good experience for me.
So, sir, how a parliamentarian can be more efficient and effective in your opinion?
First, by attending Parliament. I think, Parliament meets for about maybe 75 days. 75 days. You have to sit in Parliament. It's a grind. I reach Parliament at 10:30 and I don't leave till 7:30. So you have to attend Parliament. You have to take part in debates. And as I said, it's not just taking part. You have to listen to other people also. Because it's a it's a forum. It's a forum for people to express their views. You do your homework, and it's a great forum where you can raise public issues of farmers, issues of traders, issues of small businessmen, issues of students, issues of teachers. Many Delhi University teachers have come to meet me and said, "We must raise our concerns, in Parliament." So it's a great forum for raising issues of concern to different sections of our society.
So in your opinion, which is the most effective legislation or law which has been passed in the recent times?
Well, I would say the laws that I helped pass are the most effective. When I was environment minister, I got the National Green Tribunal. So that's been a very effective. Then when I was in government, series of laws got passed, and I had the good fortune of being associated with them. The National Rural Employment Guarantee Act, RTI, the Right to Information, got passed in 2005. The Forest Rights Act got passed in 2006. Rural Employment Guarantee Act also got passed in 2005. Then we had the Right to Education Act in 2009. The Food Security Act in 2013. One act with which I was directly involved was the Land Acquisition Act, the right to fair compensation, transparency, land acquisition, and so on. So that act in 2013. Slew of acts. I think every act, has certain political, economic, and social significance.
So you wrote a book titled Green Signals, Ecology, Growth and Democracy in India. Do you think that developing countries can industrialize their economies and address the aggravating economic environmental issues simultaneously?
It's not a question of can, we have to.
Yeah.
Because, we don't have the luxury. We cannot pollute our way to prosperity. We cannot deforest our way to prosperity. So, environment and development have to go on. We have to make sure that the economic growth that we have does not lead to more pollution, does not lead to deforestation, does not lead to imbalances in ecology. So environment and development have to move hand in hand. That's the big challenge. Other countries, they're rapidly industrialized and they are paying the price for that rapid industrialization in terms of pollution, loss of biodiversity, and so on. But this is not something that India should follow. India should not follow the grow now, pay later model.
So, in your opinion, what is the most efficient way to have sustainable development? Because you see that when you have to industrialize, most countries believe that it is necessarily at the cost of environment.
We have to break that thinking. It does not have to be at the cost of the environment. Technology is available today, which will help you to address the concerns of the environment. I think we need to be more sensitive to the effects of growth on the environment. I mean, look at Delhi, for example. Delhi is choking because of pollution, vehicular pollution. 6 years ago, Beijing was more polluted than Delhi. But today, certainly Delhi is more polluted than Beijing. So we have to be careful. We have to be sensitive to local concerns, and I think public environment is now becoming an issue of public health as well. So we need. It's not a question of either or. We need both environmental protection as well as economic growth.
So, Nobel laureate Abhijit Banerjee has recently said that the government should reduce its stake in public sector banks below to below 15% in order to revive the Indian economy. So what's the stand on it?
Well, Abhijit Banerjee is a great expert on Indian poverty. He has worked a lot on Indian poverty, Indian public health, and I admire him, I respect him. But he's not necessarily a great expert on the Indian financial system. The trouble is, when somebody gets a Nobel Prize in India, he suddenly becomes a guru on every subject under the sun. So, with great respect to Abhijit, whom I know well and I admire, I don't agree with his views on privatization of public sector banks. I think 50 years ago, banks were nationalized. Exactly 50 years ago. And they have served the country well. They have India has withstood financial shock of 2008, largely because, in our financial sector, we had followed a very prudential, cautious policy of financial liberalization. And that should continue. Privatization is not an answer. And you look at private sector banks. Look at what happened to Yes Bank. Look at what happened to Global Trust Bank. Look at what's happening in ICICI Bank. So to think that private banks are more efficient and you have less ghotalas in private sector banks compared to public sector banks is simply not true.
And sir, India is going to sign the RCEP agreement next month in Bangkok. So, sir, do you think it's a right step in reviving the economy of India?
Well, right now the economy is undergoing a crisis. There's a slowdown. Industry is hurting. Steel industry is hurting. Textile industry is hurting. Engineering industry is hurting. Small and medium enterprises is hurting. Demonetization is having, its full impact. A GST which was implemented hastily is having an impact. Now we are going to impose an RCEP. It's not right. What will RCEP do? It will enable freer imports, dairy products from New Zealand, steel from China, wheat from Australia, sugar from somewhere else, So this is not the right time, number one. And number two, I think the context is completely mistaken. When the economy is booming is one thing. The economy is in the doldrums. Agriculture is facing a crisis. Small and medium enterprises are facing a crisis. So I think this is just the wrong time for the RC.
In your opinion, do you think, considering that many analysts have said that the trade war between the US and China is beneficial to India because Chinese exports decline, and then firms have an incentive to leave China and relocate, therefore investing in potential markets like India. So do you think that India is capitalizing enough on this trade war situation? Or do you think that this trade war is actually posing a lot of barriers or has some effects on the current slowdown that they
It offers an opportunity for us to become part of the global supply chain. But that's a long-term process. Right now, investor confidence is low. Right now, the engines of growth, our exports are not increasing, our investment is not increasing, our consumption is not increasing. That's why economic growth is very, very subdued. So it is an opportunity. The fact that there is a trade war going on between America and China. But it's a long-term opportunity that India has. It's not going to happen overnight.
Also, do you think that the US, by imposing heavy tariffs on Chinese exports and some other countries' exports, the US has also accused India of indulging in unfair
we have our own trade disputes with the United States.
Exactly. So do you think that by putting such barriers to trade, it is showing signs of moving towards a protectionist economy? And if yes, do you think it will eventually reap benefits for the US?
You mean the US?
Yes.
Yeah, certainly. I think the US is certainly moving towards protectionist economy, make America great again.
Yeah.
And Mr. Trump seems to think that there is great merit in protectionism. Yeah, sure. The US economy is certainly far more protectionist today than it ever was before.
So, sir, do you think it will reap benefits for them eventually, or they'll have to make amends once Trump is out?
I'm saying, I mean, it's difficult to say, but at some stage the US will realize that, walking out of the international system is not going to benefit them. That they have to be part of the international trading system. Because they are one of the architects of the international trading system.
And so, do you find the recent slash in corporate tax be beneficial for economy or not?
Well, these tax rates, the impact of these tax rates is not going to be felt this year or next year. In the long run, 15% tax rate for new company is certainly a very attractive and certainly a very low rate. It's a good signal. It's a good signaling effect. But I'm not entirely, I'm not entirely convinced that it's going to have any effect on the investment sentiment. The investment sentiment and investor confidence is not very high right now. The problem in India is today demand.
And so, what other steps can be taken to revive the economy according to in a short
Well, I'm not in the government, so I'm not going to think of what needs to be done to revive. So that's not my responsibility. But as I said, investment has to go up, number one. Consumption has to go up, and exports has to go up. There's no fourth way. These are the only three ways that the economy can revive.
So also the present government has publicly announced on several occasions now that India will be a $5 trillion economy by 2025. So do you think that this is just an assertion on the government's part considering the slowdown and the major economic issues which are in the society? Do you think that this target is really achievable and
This 5 trillion is an arithmetical number. You won't be 5 trillion in any way. You may not be 5 trillion by 2025. You'll be 5 trillion by 2030. You're 2.5 trillion, you keep growing, you reach 5 trillion. So this is no great rocket science that we're going to reach 5 trillion. We will reach 5 trillion. Whichever the government, we will reach 5 trillion. So I'm not terribly excited by this 5 trillion, 10 trillion. What does it mean? In fact, the people who say 5 trillion don't even know the number of zeros in trillion. You know the number of zeros in trillion? You know how many zeros are in trillion? See? And you're asking me $1 trillion question.
Yeah. But
people, half the ministers who say, I don't think even the Prime Minister will know how many zeros are in $1 trillion.
But so do you think that the government is actually capitalized by making such assertions?
So it's a slogan. $5 trillion economy हो जाएगी. उसका माने क्या होता है? How does it affect the farmer? How does it affect the student? How does it affect the teacher? How does it affect the small businessman? Nobody knows what a trillion. First of all, in India, you only have 1,000, ya lakh, ya 100, ya arab. You have crore. Trillion, is it a Hindi word for trillion? First of all, do you tell me? There is no word for trillion in any Indian language. The Prime Minister is saying 5 trillion, 5 trillion, 5 trillion. It become a mantra,
Yeah.
So people are chanting for, $5 trillion economy. What is a $5 trillion economy? You're going to have, you will be a $5 trillion economy. You'll be a 10 trillion. By the time, you reach my age, we'll be a $10 trillion economy. Not a great one. I'm not terribly excited by it at all. I think this is tamasha, frankly.
So also, considering that you were there at the time of the financial crisis of 1991, and you were part of the government at that time, and you gave some significant advice. So do you think that whatever India did at that time, when it followed the path of liberalization, privatization, globalization, it was because the World Bank and the IMF had put a condition like that? Or do you think that the Indian economy really needed to get out of this closed economy?
No, I think the World Bank and the IMF were certainly interested in seeing India follow those types of policies. No doubt about it. It's true. But then, we had people in India who had been advocating these policies for many years. Dr. Manmohan Singh had been advocating it for a long time. We had Montek Singh Ahluwalia who had been saying that for a long time. I myself had written a paper in 1985, which had argued, for this type of liberalization. Yeah, but the World Bank supported it. And they came to our support. It was important to reassure international investors in the international community. Uh, uh, and everybody said, we have done it because of World Bank pressure. But the fact is, after 91, we had Devegowda, Narasimha Rao, Prime Minister, Devegowda Prime Minister, Gujarat Prime Minister, Atal Bihari Vajpayee Prime Minister, Manmohan Singh Prime Minister, Narendra Modi Prime Minister. 6 Prime Ministers. Nobody has changed the 91 architecture. It's remained the same. So there's not much merit in this argument, frankly, if you ask me.
One last question.
Yeah.
In this fastly digitalizing world, where we see that the incumbent government has also brought about policies to digitalize the economy, do you think that digitalization is a very effective thing to do in a country which, as India, where there's mass illiteracy which is prevailing?
You have to promote digital literacy. You have to promote. I'll tell you one story which nobody knows. Certainly you will not know because you were not born. In 1985, when Mr. Rajiv Gandhi introduced computerization, Mr. Atal Bihari Vajpayee came to Parliament in a bullock cart because he wanted to show that computers will lead to unemployment. Actually, computers have led to more employment. Computers have not led to any form of unemployment. So, this digital thing it's an important thing. It's important for India. It can help increase productivity. It can help education programs, health programs. Take the railways, for example. Today, all the railway system reservation is computerized. But I remember when I was growing up, when I was your age, if I had to go from Bangalore to Bombay to Bangalore, there was no direct train. You had to go to Bangalore, Pune, Bangalore. So you have to book 1 month in advance. 1 month in advance. You had to book. And you couldn't book Pune, Bangalore from Bangalore, from Bombay. You had to book only from Pune. Today, you sit digital, you going from Srinagar to Trivandrum, to Porbandar to Guwahati, you can do it. So, but digital literacy is important. You have to educate people. It should not, digital technology should not become an instrument of increasing inequality in our society. That's absolutely right.
But so this digitalization has its own repercussions because, for example, this digitalization also leads to the problem of a lack of security in many cases, in case there are loopholes, and then people become victims of such problems.
I agree. Technology brings with it a lot of attendant risks. We need regulations. Look at Facebook. Look at Google. There are risks associated with Facebook and Google as well. But on the whole, I think the movement for digitalization is a positive movement. But we should empower people. And it should not be that only one section of society becomes beneficiary of this digital India movement.
Lastly, sir, just your opinion on the global scenario as such and India's position today, because India has come a long way. The global scenario and India's status today as an emerging power in today's world.
Well, India emerged as a power in 1947. To say that India has emerged now is a big exaggeration. And the Indian economy has become bigger. And certainly India has become much more powerful over the last 70 years. You can't afford to neglect India. After all, in another 5 years' time, 2024, which is 5 years' time, we will be the world's most populous country. We would have overtaken China. We're also a nuclear power. We're the third largest economy in the world, and our population is increasing by 10 to 12 million every year. So no country can afford to ignore. The world can't afford to ignore India. Let me put it this way. And India cannot afford to ignore the world either. So it's a It's a two-way relationship.
Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you.
And we are privileged to have this interaction.
Thank you.